Now, folks, on to the main event. And when the governor walked in a minute ago, he said, please don't read that same old bio that they send out every time when I speak in front of a group. So, Governor, I'll spare you that same old thing, and I'll just go with the quick one. I know you've got a schedule to keep. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are so honored and blessed to have Governor Edwards with us today. He has been a friend to CCA, not just as governor, but well back into his time in the state, at the state capitol. And honestly, without further ado, I'm going to bring him up here because I know that's who you'd like to hear from. How about it for Governor John Bel Edwards?
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to be with you. I believe, and David, correct me if I'm wrong, this is 3 years. I believe I came to an event before I was elected. I know I came with you all to see you all last year, so I appreciate the opportunity to be back with you all, and I appreciate the good meal as well. David, I don't know if you know this, but I think it was 4 years ago today that I met you. I was at Washington, D.C. Mardi Gras. My oldest daughter was a princess. And David was assigned to carry the sign for us and make sure that we got where we were supposed to go on time, and it proved to be a challenge. But thank you for doing that, and Samantha asked me to tell you hello.
Tell her hello.
I know we have a couple of table of legislators. I want to thank y'all for being here. See, I know y'all like Baton Rouge. I'm just giving you an opportunity to be here more often. But no, thank you for being here and for what you do for our state. Congratulations to Mark Mouton and to Sam Elliott for the individual awards and the recognition. And I know that we've talked about the agents. I want to thank them for the work that they do for Louisiana. The commission, thank you all. And with respect to Agent Wheeler, I had an opportunity to speak to his wife. What a courageous, strong young lady. And I would just ask you all to keep all of them in your prayers, along with the prayers that I will be sending up for them as well. You all have some idea of the challenges that we've had in Louisiana over the last year, whether it was a record $2 billion budget deficit, 2 floods, March and August, where 56 of our 64 parishes were declared major federal disasters, the 4th most costly flood disaster in the history of the United States of America. And in between those 2 floods were the shootings here in Baton Rouge and all of the protests and demonstrations. So you can imagine how relieved I am that I had a very quiet year when it came to wildlife and fisheries. Not a single headache. Look, I am excited about the direction of the wildlife and fisheries under the leadership of Jack Montesay, somebody who has been my friend and a great public servant for many, many years. He's been a great public servant long before he was my friend, but I've known him now for about 10 years, and I'm excited about the partnership that we are building together with all of the folks who enjoy Louisiana's great outdoors. So, Jack, thank you very much for accepting the job. You all probably know this by now, but Jack is open to dialogue, and he's going to ensure that everyone who's got an interest in keeping Louisiana the sportsman's paradise has a seat at the table and an opportunity to provide input, and so thank you for doing that, Jack. And in fact, he's already talking to a lot of groups, including your own, the CCA, and your leadership to determine how to best service the needs of all of our constituencies and maintain the proper balance between competing interests. Because even as it relates to access to the great bounty that God has blessed us with, there are always some competing interests out there that have to be managed. And he and I both understand, and we both personally enjoy Louisiana's legacy of having some of the best recreational fishing in the country. And in fact, it was July the 4th of last year that I was able to go out of Venice, and in about 45 minutes, we caught a limit of red snapper, brought them home, ate what we could, froze the rest, and promptly lost them in the August flood. So I'm looking to go out and get some more snapper, Jack, as soon as I can. The last trip that I made into the Gulf was with Fred Palmer and the people at Shell, and he took me to a production platform and a drilling rig, and he didn't once put a rod in my hand, but we'll fix that next time, my friend. Fred, thank you very much for the generous contribution that Shell made to the tagging program. Really, really do appreciate that. You all probably know this, but it bears repeating. Recreational fishing in our state supports 15,241 jobs and accounts for about $1.6 billion in direct sales. And that is a huge number, especially when we are a state that has not been hitting on all cylinders when it comes to our economy. So I appreciate everything that you do and mean for our state. I also want to thank you for the partnership that you have with us when it comes to artificial reef construction. That partnership between CCA and LDWF has been a great success, and it will continue. And obviously the agreement provides for seed money for reef projects. And then you all go out and secure the donations of material and in-kind services that allow those dollars to be stretched much further and a lot more good to take place. And this is an extremely extremely efficient use of funds, which results in the construction of more acres of fishing reefs than if Wildlife and Fisheries was to do it on its own. The current contract is for Wildlife and Fisheries to provide $300,000 to CCA for inshore artificial reef construction at 3 sites, those being on Southwest Lake Pontchartrain, Southeast Calcasieu Lake, and Lake Pelto. I will have to admit that I had to go figure out where Lake Pelto was. When I saw it on the map, it doesn't much look like a lake, but I'm sure at one time that it was. But that is an extremely important area where we are partnering together. And while my position did not change when it comes to red snapper, I do understand that mixed messages went out over the last year when it comes to the management of red snapper as it relates to recreational fishing, and I will take responsibility for that. But I want to assure you again, and hopefully for the last time, that I do favor state management of the red snapper resource in Louisiana. I've spoken to Secretary Monasey and many other stakeholders, and in fact, several of the legislators who are here today multiple times and at length about this subject. And that if any time in the future we have the ability to manage that resource and have more autonomy in the state of Louisiana, we are going to take it. That's the approach that we want to take. And it isn't just going to come to us, and I understand that. It's either going to happen through an act of Congress or because working through the Gulf Council, we secured that autonomy, and we're going to be moving in that direction. And in fact, I believe it's prudent to move in both directions at once to see exactly what we can make happen. And we recognize that there are obstacles, but we're going to continue to work with our political leaders at the state and federal level to make sure that we move in this direction. And I know that Secretary Monasey has already started holding meetings with stakeholders involved in the red snapper fishing. And moving forward, I know that the Wildlife and Fisheries will make decisions only after rigorous discussions with stakeholders and biologists. And I know we recognized the enforcement agents earlier today, but the biologists at Wildlife and Fisheries are among the very best in the country as well. We don't know when or if Congress is going to act. We don't know what that will look like. And so, as I mentioned before, I believe that we ought to pursue whatever opportunities we have with the Gulf Council. And I'm going to ask Secretary Monasey to work with you all and others to see if a pilot program for, maybe possible to gauge the viability of a different approach. Maybe where on the 9-day season, for example, the licensed angler gets to decide which 9 days, so that you're not, forced to go out and fish when the marine forecast suggests you shouldn't be out there. Or, I know we have some people who will take off work for a CCA event, but maybe that's not available to all of you. And so having more flexibility about when you go out and harvest those fish would be helpful. And I think there ought to be a way to do that, especially if we do it with a pilot first, see how it works. We can also institute pilots where we get better real-time information using apps, for example, on smartphones to take better records, keep better records, more accurate records about the fish that we're harvesting. I think there are a lot of opportunities out there. None of them are going to be easy. The premise of this is that the fishery is healthier than is reflected in the current short seasons and the fish limits. I accept that. One of the challenges that we have, as you know, is that the best fishing in the world is right off of Louisiana. And we've got folks who like to come from Mississippi and Alabama and Texas and Florida. And so trying to make sure that we manage that effectively is, I think, always going to be a challenge, but it's not a challenge that we can't overcome if you think about all the things that humans are able to do. When I was just a small kid, we put somebody on the moon. I think we ought to be able to regulate ourselves when it comes to red snapper fisheries in 2017. Now, I know that it was through the leadership and the commitment of the recreational community that led to the extra $7.50 on the saltwater fishing license, and that has allowed La Creel to be fully funded. And that program is a shining example of of how we can collect recreational harvest data with many other coastal states attempting to replicate its precision. The license fee increase, as you may know, sunsets in 2018. We do want to work with you to make sure that you can assist us in extending the life of that particular program. So, as I've said before, your voices are important, and it helps us to determine how we move forward and make sure that Louisiana remains the sportsman's paradise. I, for one, enjoy just about every aspect of outdoor life in Louisiana. In fact, I got one opportunity to go dove hunting this year. And I was able to go into St. Helena Parish, and this was, I think, Labor Day weekend, the Sunday, one afternoon. It was the first half day that I was taken off since the floods in August. And Mr. Rasponi caught me while I was hunting and interviewed me the entire time that I was out there hunting. So I just want to thank you for doing that. And he knows firsthand just how poor of a shot I can be when it comes to doves, but I really do enjoy getting outdoors. The worst day I have ever had hunting or fishing beats the hell out of the worst day I've ever had in the governor's office. I just want to tell you. So thank you again for allowing me to be with you today. I hope to get an invitation next year. And by then, it's my expectation, not just my hope, but my expectation that the state of Louisiana will be on much more of a solid footing, that we will have stabilized our state, and that we can look towards the future with a lot more optimism than many people have today. But I want you to know, as your governor, I am optimistic. I am bullish on our future, despite the challenges, because I know that we're going to come together, we're going to fix our problems, set the stage for long-term stability and success and prosperity, so that our kids and grandkids have the Louisiana that we want them to have. And that certainly includes preserving our legacy as a sportsman's paradise. God bless you. Thank you very much.